Hi everybody, Chrissy Nix with Soulful Line Human Design, and today I'm talking about the fifth line profile and the projection field. Okay, so I know projection field gets a really bad rap, and I'd really like to try and shift that mindset or perspective for you in this video. Now, I would love for you to take a minute. If this resonates, great. If you have anything that really strikes home, feel free to comment below. I would love to hear any questions that you have. Um, I am a 3-5 profile, so I'm an unconscious 5. So the first letter in your profile on your human design chart, that is your conscious self. So that is going to be what they call personality. And it's something that you're very aware of, that how you work, because your profile is how you connect and communicate with the world. Okay, so that's how you're going to put information out there, but also how you take information in. It's that flow of energy back and forth. Okay, so as a fifth line, we tend to have a little bit of a challenge because we also have a projection field or an invisible force field around us that seems to somewhat manipulate or distort the information we put out into the world, but also what comes in, like a giant filter, which can be a pain in the ass, but we're going to talk about it a little further. So, like I said before, a 3-5, I'm a 3-5 profile. My 3 is conscious, which means I know that I like to explore. I like to figure things out. I like new adventures. I like to experiment. I'm always like, yeah, try it. That is part of my mentality. I do need to retreat. It's part of the lower triagram. 1, 2, and 3 are the bottom low triagram, which are very interpersonal, which dealing with self, versus the 4, 5, and 6, which are the higher triagram. And the higher trigram is more about working with the world or the collective at large. So with my 3 being conscious, I'm very aware that I love to just throw things out there and see what sticks. I don't make mistakes. I just figure out what not to do next time. So I had to really recover from the whole stigma of making mistakes and being wrong and how that was a bad thing. And it's like, yeah, but I just saved you $50 because now I know what not to do and you won't do it. So, there's things that really us threes really need credit for, but that's a different video. In this, though, we're talking about the 5 line. So for me, the 5 lines, we have that bubble. Okay. And I like to think of my projection field as a bubble. Some people say it looks like glass, maybe hand blown glass, might have bubbles in it, some distortion. Um, uh, and I like to see it as a bubble, semi-permeable. You can breathe. It's not going to smother you. However, if you are not truly sitting in who you know who you are, and you know how you follow your strategy and your authority, if you're not very aware of those pieces of yourself, then there's going to be a lot of things projected from you. If you're in a bad mood, a lot of times that's projected out. And what you see yourself lacking is what you see excessively in someone else. Okay. So if I'm feeling really tight with money and I feel like money is in scarcity, I might see my friends as being very extravagant. Okay. Just the opposite, because I'm like, well, I can't spend that. I don't have the budget for that. Wow, they're buying a new car and they're going off and going to the movies and they're traveling and all this other stuff. How extravagant of them. And a lot of the times, um, and it's almost like you project it onto them like it's a bad thing. And when in truth, that's you just needing some attention, right? And it's to call your attention to it. But being a fifth line as an unconscious part of my profile, right? Which is something that I don't really know I'm doing until I'm in it often. I know I have the tendency, so I can be proactive in that aspect, but I am I have a tendency, I'm a big picture person. I'm, definitely here to nugget down or break things down into universal bite-sized pieces so people get it. I love teaching, but that's all very fifth line oriented. We're fixers. Oh my goodness. We love to come in and save the day until we've stayed too long at the party and then we turn into the devil with whoever is projecting that information onto us, right? So That's one thing about the projection field is that we project out often, right? Especially when we don't know who we are and where things are just running without any type of awareness versus people come to us seeking specific things, specific expectations. Like my mother, you don't want to get into my relationship with my mother, but she has certain expectations all the time. And she always seems to be disappointed regardless of what I do. And it's because she comes to me and she sees me a specific way. She is basically telling me how she sees me, and this is what she expects of me, regardless of whether I work like that or not. So, a lot of times, us fifth lines tend to feel like we're not very authentically seen or heard because we're not. We've got this bubble around us that can distort things, right? And it's a filter for information. And one way I like to explain this, and I hope this resonates with you, is that as a fifth line, I also have the 1222 channel, which connects my throat to my solar plexus, which means I emotionally, when I connect with something, I need to verbalize it in a way that feels good and right for me at the time. So if I speak out of turn or if I am projecting and I speak my emotions because I feel like they have expectations of me and they shouldn't have those, and I say something, a lot of the times things will sound warbly. It's like war, 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 almost like the Charlie Brown cartoons when the teacher was talking. It was like wow, wow, wow. It sounds like that when I'm speaking through my projection field, and it's actually not true. It's a great perspective for me to understand, ooh, my bad. I shouldn't have said that. I take it back. Never mind. Because I need to take responsibility for that, right? And course correct and know that, okay, so that felt really yucky and off in my body. And that's because it wasn't true. That needed to be sat with and reframed so that I understand, okay, I'm putting pressure on myself to meet expectations that aren't even being set by anybody else but me. Okay. So I know there's a lot of information. I'm an MG and I tend to talk really fast. So if you have questions or concerns, or if this resonates with you, let me know. So, as a projection field owner, all fifth lines own projection fields as well as projectors. Hello, they live in that projection field all the time. So, being really aware of your strategy and authority is huge. And I have a handful of things, 5 things that I use in order to really navigate this projection field most of the time with grace and ease. Okay, 80% of the time, it works really well, maybe 90. First thing is to be very clear and set your expectations up front. So be transparent when you're making an offer or you're putting a video out into the world or you're publishing content and you have an offer at the end, a call to action. Make sure you disclose that at the beginning so someone doesn't feel like you baited and hooked them. Okay. Just be really clear and upfront and understand that your strategy and authority goes both ways. Where if you're an MG and you're um, a manifesting generator, you need to be, responding, but you also need to be informing. You also need to be informed, and you really get pissed when people don't respond. Okay. So remember, strategy and authority goes both ways. It'll save a lot of hectic, pain in the ass time with the projection field. Second thing is to really know who you are and what you want out of this interaction, this experience, this conversation. Knowing what you want up front, your expectations will help you actually get it because it helps you manifest it that way. But also, there's no hard feelings. No one's going to be hurt if you inform them ahead of time. This is really what I'm hoping to do because that clears away the resistance. So, but if you don't know how you're wired, get a reading because you really need to talk to someone who can help you articulate that. So going into conversation, you know up front what you're wanting and what your expectations are, and whether you're putting too much pressure on yourself to know, understand, or do because you don't. Who needs that, right? The third thing is to be proactive. Okay, so as an MG, that's one thing about informing is that when I tell people, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to Taco Cabana to get tacos. It allows people to go, okay, I know where she's going. I don't want to go. I'm good. So being able to tell people ahead of time or to be proactive you come into, you connect with less resistance, and you're more aware of the possibility that you could be misunderstood. Because again, going through the projection field, things get warbly, things get distorted, things get changed. Plus, you don't know what they're expecting of you, right? Unless you ask. So, knowing that you need to give some things grace, because, they could totally mistake whatever you've said, totally didn't hear you, or that you kind of roll with the punches a little bit easier when you know, oh, I could see where that would have been misconstrued. You didn't hear me correctly or completely. So, yeah, keeping that idea huge. Fourth thing, if something doesn't feel right, you need to check in, because when it doesn't feel right, there's a reason. And you need to make sure, ooh, if this feels funny, is it mine? And if it is mine, you need to take responsibility for it. Okay. But also, the fifth thing, if it is yours, it isn't yours, you need to also respond accordingly. If it isn't yours, go, what do they need from me? Evidently, this is not mine, this is theirs. How can I be open and supportive without negatively influencing this perspective, right? How can you truly be yourself and show up as yourself in order to shift whatever perspective they are projecting onto you? Because then you can be seen as authentically as you are, especially when you consistently show up as you, because you know how you're wired, right? So being a fifth line, it's a big deal to understand that a lot of times people are seeing themselves or seeing in themselves what they want on you, and having it's okay. I mean, you're here to reflect back, but also being conscious of the fact that you're reflecting back what they need to see within themselves helps you to hold that space. If you don't want to hold the space, you need to step out of the energy, walk out of the room. Okay. Excuse yourself and say, hey, not my job. You really need to go talk to, so and so. It helps. It so helps, because fives love to fix things. And so many times my husband will tell me, stay in your lane. How many times have you heard someone tell you that? It's because you're doing something. It's not your job. But man, you want to step in and fix it. And you go, okay, I get it. No problem. Drop it. I'm good. So it's impressive once you start really living that strategy and authority and really connecting with it. I mean, because you can clear this lens. So think of this bubble as being clear. It's a lens in which you see the world, but also how the world sees you. It's a two-way mirror. Okay. But this lens can be focused by you quite simply understanding who you are and how you work, the gifts, the challenges, everything that you bring to the table. Because then you can focus it and you go, okay, so I'm stepping into this completely aware and being myself. This is how it shifts this dynamic. Because, life is an experiment, right? Hell, I'm a 3-5. Everything's an experiment. But this is a practice. Living true to your human design and your strategy and your authority is a practice. The projection field, living with it, is a practice. And the more aware you are of how it works and how you work within it will allow you to move through life with more grace and ease. And who the hell doesn't want that? So if you have any questions, have this video resonated with you, please leave a note below. I would love to hear your comments, have some conversation, because I love to talk, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.